I think when we think about humanitarian action, too often we focus just on the delivery of aid. But what's most important is really that peacemaking. So President Trump came into office and said, and he said this on the floor of the United Nations in September, he said, the United Nations has such incredible promise, and the United States founded that, helped found the United Nations and has been its largest funder for many decades, and we're incredibly proud of that. But at the same time, it hasn't been living up to its promise. And so I think today, this is focused on the humanitarian sector and the types of reforms that working together with, leaders. I just want to thank Tom and his team for all of the work that they've done. This has been a long time coming. This reform, many of you will try to focus on the numbers first and foremost, but I think that's less important than the new model that we're announcing here today, which I think is the sort of the future of both how the UN orients its operations to remove duplication, to sort of cut some of that bloat, to make it more efficient, to make it faster, more flexible, more sort of able to respond to the 21st century challenges that, that humanitarian challenges that the world faces. But also the way that we fund the UN system to make it more accountable, to have more insight into what they're doing, to be able to have more input, to correct things when they get off base, make sure that funding is advancing American national interests, that's efficient, that's delivering real life-saving impact, and to reorient the humanitarian complex on that life-saving impact and that core life-saving work.
Over the past 12 months, I've been in Darfur twice, in Gaza twice. I've been in Afghanistan, Syria, Lebanon, Myanmar, Haiti, DRC, and so many of the other crises where we work. And I've seen close up the amazing work out there, but also the scale of the needs. And I'm thinking at this moment of the young woman I met a month ago in Tawila, just outside of Fasher in Darfur, who had fled the fighting. She had scooped up the 2-month-old child of her neighbor, having lost all of her own family to the gangs. She had fled along the most dangerous road in the world, been attacked, raped on that road, had a leg broken, but had somehow made it to our clinic, and she was getting that support. And as a result of what we're discussing here today, millions more will get that support that they so badly need. And that gives me hope and optimism. So this is a landmark agreement. I'll let Jeremy dig into the numbers as he's given you a teaser already that's coming. But a number that really matters here is that millions of lives will be saved across 17 countries. And I want to...
going to use the United States as diplomatic leverage, and obviously, Tom's message and sort of focus on doing that life-saving work to try to get other countries behind this. But, we were funding the humanitarian system through sets of hundreds of individual projectized grants that were sort of overlapping with these various different UN agencies. And we were spending, $10+ billion many years on these various different grants. And I think the way that worked in practice was if a single grant had some sort of issue, then the money couldn't be moved to another grant. Or if needs changed and you put $100 million on some mechanism in one part of a country, you need to have an entirely new grant, to move that money over to, address another need. And that takes a really long time because government grant making is slow and the agencies weren't working together. They were competing against each other. They were building duplicate infrastructure, all of that. So what we're announcing today is Tom's team and his leadership, he's going to be sort of taking more centralized control over the way that we plan assistance in these countries. So we announced a few weeks ago our America First Global Health Strategy, which has been remarkably successful, and we've signed, double digits. Every day there are more MoUs signed. I think we have a few more today, where we're working directly for the first time with mostly African governments that are recipients of health assistance on a single bilateral MoU. And so I think when we think about how we, as the United States, program assistance to the UN humanitarian system, the analog is that what we're signing here is an umbrella agreement with 17 of these country-level MoUs that Tom and I are going to sign that govern how we deliver us, U.S. funded us, how he delivers, and we fund and we oversee, humanitarian assistance in these different countries.